Before we show the demo, we would like to point out that the screen you are about to see is configurable to meet individual customer needs. The maps, timelines, attributes, and more can be configured to suit a particular industry or facility, whether it is a process, offshore wind, mining, manufacturing, or other facility. We work in close collaboration with customers to understand their requirements and ensure that the solution addresses their needs. We will now switch to the actual demo. And the screen you see is what would be on a large monitor in a common area on a facility or in a meeting room, or like here, can be accessed through a laptop. The main part of the screen you see is the calendar timeline on the right. It is right now showing 14 days in the window. There are also options in this demo to show 2 days or 12 weeks for longer planning horizons. Other customers configure it to their needs. We have customers with 5 days, 3 days, etc. What you see is just 2 weeks at a time. This does not mean that it's only 2 weeks available. I can scroll to the past and see what has been completed, which are grayed out tasks. I see at a glance colored tasks, which means they are effectively overdue as they have not been completed. I can scroll into the future to get a view also of what is coming up in terms of loading of tasks. The filtering is dynamic. Let me scroll back to the today's date, and it connects what you see in the window on the right at any given point, highlighting at the top left which disciplines are active, in the area map which areas are involved, and on the lower left which systems are involved in this case, or if I click key attributes, which material status do I have, what is the due status, are there special attributes, criticality, and other status. These are configurable by customer. So in this demo, it's key attributes and systems, but it could be other things. Now, at the top, you see in this screen the contextual information. We have weather, logistics with helicopters, and boats. When we change the view, you can have resources up here, and in future iterations, which we are now launching for current customers, there will be production information, for instance, so that you can live look at, if you move a job, what is the impact on production. I will open a group, mechanical, by clicking the arrow, excuse me, and show the detailed work orders. These are typically from a system like SAP or Maximo, and each work order will contain detail underneath. On a large touchscreen, I would simply tap and swipe down to open a work order. Here I click and drag down. We then see it was due on the 11th, meaning it looks like it is slightly overdue. We see the status, it is scheduled. We see the priority, who is responsible, which group, tags, etc. This is information from the underlying system that is fed into live directly. If I click the role underneath, I can get, if there were conflicts, I would see that up here in the calendar bar, area conflicts or scheduling conflicts. I simply click and drag up to close. If we look at a more complex operation with more disciplines, like a safety relief valve replacement, I click. Immediately to the left, we see the categories of disciplines highlighted. We see which area is the job being done in on the map, and we see which attributes are allocated to this work. I click and drag down to open. And I have the underlying tasks. We need to erect scaffold. We need to rig it all up, isolate, carry out the work as per instruction, de-isolate, de-rig, and dismantle scaffolds. If I scroll here, I see all the detailed tasks of who's responsible for each step. And I can also go in and highlight the underlying jobs. By the way, green means normal jobs. The blue-purple is safety-critical jobs. We already now see an potential area conflict that warrants more attention here. I can look at this. It alerts us also to the fact that we're working on a safety barrier, and we continue the same area conflict. So perhaps this job shouldn't really be here. That will need to be investigated further. I close it by clicking off this, click and drag up. If I'm a mechanical team lead in my morning meeting, and I can simply, let me just close this, I click at my group and I see all my tasks for the day and the coming days within this 2-week window. This helps me plan and utilize my resources. If I'm an area responsible or a deck responsible, I can look at North Alpha and simply click a deck and I will see the same thing. I will also see which disciplines are involved by those that remain white. And I unclick this and I will show you now South Alpha, which is a different facility in a different view to demonstrate the ISO view maps that we also use. And if I'm, for instance, now the deck responsible for the main deck, I simply click main and I see all the activities going on the main deck. You may have noticed that when I switched from North Alpha to South Alpha, the tasks changed because the tasks are dependent on the platform or facility that they are linked to. It is possible to have multiple assets and facilities here. We also have another demo facility called Onshore, which indicates an onshore processing facility, which has the similar functionality as the offshore. It is also possible to zoom down. These maps are configurable depending on client needs. I'll go back to South Alpha for a moment. Underneath, you have the longer blue bars that the cursor is pointing to. They show the asset plans. For reference, I click the arrow to open. I can now overlay the asset plans with the detailed work tasks to make sure that it lines up properly. The information in the asset plans are not contained here. It's simply the name, just to make sure that it lines up with the work tasks that are created to fulfill these plans as well. I close it again. On the logistics side, it is possible to have information on helicopters by simply clicking and dragging down, or by boats by doing the same thing. I'll illustrate with a vessel. By clicking and dragging down, the vessel information will come. We see where it came from, where it's going to, what's on board. Some of it falls off the screen. I can easily scroll to catch it. We see the backload. If I click backload, and this helps the deck crew and crane operators plan their workday. It also helps the people on board the installation or on the facility to plan their work, making sure that their materials and supplies are coming as they need them. This could be trucks, for instance. It does not need to be boats. This depends on the facility. This is obviously an offshore oil installation. It could be an onshore facility where trucks are important instead. I simply click and drag up to close the information. I will briefly show a replanning function later. You see that there are two tabs over here, one replan and one approve. This is a fairly straightforward replanning functionality to deal with ad hoc changes in the workday. But before we go there, I will switch back to North Alpha to show you work permits. We have level 1 permits, which have 14 today and 12 tomorrow. We have safety degraded permits, which are the safety critical elements, or the major accident hazard elements. If I click the 14 work permits today, unclick and click, we see where they are located. The coding is customer specific and defines what work is being done. The green bar on the outside tells us how far along they are. If I, for instance, click this E, it will open up. It's an execution work permit. It's to remove scaffoldings built for pipe isolation work, and I can click this little V arrow for more information about the project. The E means explosives. For some reason, they need explosives on this installation to remove pipe isolation. I click the X to close. In my afternoon meeting on the installation, I simply look at all of tomorrow's work permits by clicking tomorrow. And I see that there are some of them which are very close in area, so we may want to look at them more in detail. We can open that in the meeting and go through each and every one and make sure that there are no conflicts for doing the work. Click the X to close and uncheck to close the view. I will go back to the replanning module. If I click drilling on this installation, I highlight the drilling work, and when I click replan, a little wing will come out and I can start my replanning. What I do now is I can modify the current plan. The first part only modifies it in Visavi Live. Later, when I send it to approval, an approver can go in, log in, and accept or dismiss or change the suggestion. I will close the window. It stays green to indicate that it is on. And you see a resource curve came up here. Something has come up. We need to move this monthly noise job. So I simply click it and I shift it forward in time. And I see that I'm overloaded here. So something happened, plus the work hasn't gotten done, which means that I will take that one and move it out a bit so that we can even the load. I've now moved 2 jobs. I open the replan tab. I've shifted 2 jobs. I can click the current plan to compare the 2 that I changed with the current plan. And I agree with that, so I decide to send it to approval. I can now create alternative scenarios by clicking the plus, which will build onwards from the 2 jobs I already changed, or I can go to current plan and click plus and create a completely new scenario. I will simply now select the 2 jobs I've changed and send them to approval. Done. My work is finished. I exit and close the wing. Then along comes the approver. She will open the Approve tab and start the approval process. The system loads the proposals. We have some older suggestions that I have ignored previously here, so I will open the latest one. And I can look at each one like this and see what the change were. I can go back and compare to the current plan. I decide I like the change, so I decide to approve all changes if I leave this blue, or each job itself. So I decide to approve all changes. When I click approve now, this is when it writes back to this underlying source system, in this case SAP. Approve changes. So SAP is now updated with this change, and I can exit. and close it. That concludes our short demo of the solution. There is much more, so feel free to contact us at any time and we will give you more in depth.